Hi, Stuart Barn here, and this is video 3 in the series on rhythm guitar playing. In this video, we're going to look at chord extensions and substitutions. A chord extension is where instead of playing a chord like a 7th, you might choose to play a 9th or an 11th or a 13th. Now this is all to do with chord construction. You can continue adding particular notes onto the end of chords to make usually a more jazzy sounding chord. Ideally, you want to look at music theory and understand how chords are constructed. If you haven't done anything on music theory yet, then you might want to take a look at the music theory app that I made, and I'll leave a link to that in the notes below. In the absence of music theory, you can still go quite a long way just learning the shapes of these chords and trying them out and using your ear to judge whether it is an appropriate chord to use instead of just a plain major or 7th. So we'll start with minor chords. Here's an A minor. Now, if your tune is just 2 bars of A minor, that's a bit boring. We mentioned in previous videos about adding bass lines. Well, you can try that, but alternatively, you could try these chord extensions. So an obvious one is just to play a minor 7. Whenever you play a minor, you can nearly always choose to play a minor 7. There's 2 obvious ways of doing it. One is to put your little finger here, and that just gives you a slightly jazzier sound. The other one is to take the 3rd finger off. So it's, as I say, a jazzier version of a minor. Now you can substitute that chord directly. So instead of playing A minor, you play A minor 7 the whole way through. Or you could just use the minor 7 as a temporary sidestep. For example, and that just creates a little movement. As I touched on, you need to use your ear and decide whether you think these ad-libs are appropriate for the song you're playing. It might be, it might not be. Okay, another option is to play a sus4. So A minor, A sus4. And you can use that in the same sort of way as a temporary sidestep. Sus2. Same approach. And you can mix all these up. And it, hopefully you agree, is a more interesting guitar part. It's certainly more interesting to play. Same sort of thing with E minor. You could do a minor 7 like this, or this. You can add this note, which is actually already in the chord, so you're not really changing the chord, but it is a fair enough option. In terms of chord extensions, well, you can do a minor add 9, which would be this. That's a slightly darker sound, I think. You can do a sus4 again. No easy sus2 without changing shape. So that's a couple of suggestions. You can do the same thing for the D minor. Sus2, sus4, minor 7. Let's quickly try and apply that to minor bar chords. So here's a D minor. Again, you can do minor 7. This I highly recommend getting used to, using the 3rd finger to cover both the middle 2 strings, thereby freeing up the little finger. Over this way, do the same thing. I can now do my sus4, minor 7, do both of those. It's still a minor 7. Minor add 9, just like before. You can also do minor 11ths. Now, minor 11ths are lovely chords. This is the shape for the A minor in this region. You can actually ditch this note and just keep those. And that's a nice sound. So again, you could switch between, instead of say minor 7, which you could do this way or this way, you could go. Or a direct substitution, play minor 11 throughout. For this chord, minor 11 would be this. It's a lovely sound. So again, instead of minor 7, You could go or switch between the two, slightly more awkward. So that's some suggestions for your minors. There are other chords like minor 13. It's a bit more quirky, and it tends to only work when it's how you describe it, it's chord number 2 within some parent major key. So I think I'll leave that one for now. Over to major chords. So here's my G. There's a little cluster of notes here which work well. You could do a sus4, as long as you're muting the A string. Add 9, which is this note here. 6, which is this note here. And you can mix all those up. You could take a C. You can add this finger here. That's still a C, it's just one of the chord tones. You know, add 9 by putting a little finger here. A 6 by doing this. For an E, the same sort of thing, sus4. 6, add 9. For an A, we have a 6 here. Add 9 would be here. 6 would be there as well. For a D, you could put add 9 there. Sus4, sus2. So again, the point here is just to try some of these out. You don't have to use all of them, but just one or two here and there could be a nice way to jazz up your playing. Things get slightly complicated when we talk about sevenths, because all the minor chords in a major key typically can be played as minor sevenths, but it's not the same for major chords. They diverge. There are 3 major chords in a key. 2 of them naturally extend to be major sevenths, and the other one extends to be a dominant seventh. Again, if you don't really know what I'm talking about, these terms, don't worry too much about it, but you might want to look at some music theory. If you are playing, say, a seventh, I'll play a D7 here. You can, so this is a D dominant 7, not a major 7. You can nearly always play a dominant 9, which is this, or an 11, or a 13. So if I have just like a groove, I could substitute directly one of those chords, or I could play between them. So for example, if I'm playing an A7, again I could do an A9, which would be this, an A11, use my thumb for that, or an A13. So that would sound like this if I play around with them. Okay, so there's some of the extensions that you can use. You've also got 7 sus4, sorry, I forgot to mention that one. So when you have a dominant 7, you could choose to do a 7 sus4 like this, or a 7 sus2. With this shape, 7 sus4 like this. 7 sus2 is more awkward, it would be like that. And you can apply that to the open shapes as well. I know that's a lot of information, but try some of these out. Just a couple of them to begin with, and just get used to using the shapes and switching between them. Also try them out as full-blown substitutions instead of just your plain major or minor chords. I hope you found it helpful. See you in the next video.